Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Black History Nerd session. As you all are trickling in, please feel free to kind of let us know where you're from, what your professional backgrounds are in the chat, and we will get started shortly. Dr. King, do you think I should go ahead or wait a little bit longer?
Let's wait a minute or so.
Okay. So for those that are just entering in, welcome, welcome. Feel free to drop in the chat where you all are located and what professional backgrounds you are situated in. We're going to give a few more people a chance to get settled and join the meeting, and then we'll get started.
Go ahead and get started.
All righty. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Daphne Bibbs. I am one of the graduate fellows here at the University of Buffalo. And I'm also heavily affiliated with the Center for K through 12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education. Today's Black History Nerd is going to feature Dr. Ashanti Hayes. Before Dr. Hayes begins with her presentation, I'm just going to share with you all a few updates that we have from the center. So, as many of you all already know, this center is a space for pre-kindergarten through 12th grade teachers to learn effective ways to teach Black history and race. So we offer research, professional development, networking opportunities, points of advocacy, as well as consulting. On the screen here, you see everyone else that's affiliated with the center. Donovan is on. I don't think we have anyone else. Of course, Dr. Laguerre King is on. Donovan, would you want to unmute and kind of introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Donovan, also a fellow here at the Center for K-12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education. Welcome to Black History Nerds.
And D just came in too.
Hi, Dee. Good morning. Do you mind introducing yourself? I know you just got here.
Yes, good morning. I am Dee. I am also a fellow at the Center for K-12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education. I hope everybody enjoys the session this morning.
Thank you. And Dr. King, you have any words for us this morning?
Good morning. Thank you as always for the support.
Absolutely. And next, we have a little information about our next Black History Nerd session. So it would be none other than Donovan James. Her title presentation is My Knowing is Different, The Aesthetics of Black History Picture Books. And so in a moment here, you'll see a link to register for that. That session will be May 10th at the same time. Here you see our micro-credential that is offered by the center. We will have an additional cohort starting next school year. Dee is actually one of the instructors. We have an informational session coming up March 20th. So make sure that you follow our social media channels to get further updates about that. And Donovan has dropped information about the micro credential for those that are interested in the chat as well. We have our next book club is set to start next month in April. On the screen here, you see information about the book that will be featured, and then our facilitator will be Janiyah Hoover. I don't know if she's on, but if she does come on later, I'll give her an opportunity to kind of share a little bit more about her book club. We also have a Research and Race series that will take place April 29th. Of course, this session, like many of our sessions, will be held over Zoom. And so you'll soon see information about that as well. Excuse me. So this book drive is something, it was a new venture that we took on. And I believe, are we still accepting books, or has the donations ended,
Yeah.
Donovan or Dr. King?
Yeah, so if I could say a few words, thank you all for the support for the book drive. We ended up um, having 68 books from the book drive. I believe we listed all the books, and all the books were purchased for the Charter School of Inquiry. And soon, within the next few weeks, we will present the books to the Charter Schools of Inquiry for their Black History Library. Thank you so much for that support.
Absolutely. And one of our biggest events that we host every year is our annual Teaching Black History Conference. We have closed the submissions for proposals, and those of you all that were accepted will get notification of that very soon. Our registration is now open, and so we encourage you all to register, share with other educators in your network about this beautiful event. It takes place here in Buffalo, and it will run from July 25th to July 27th.
Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
This has been a record-breaking conference in terms of the proposal submissions, I believe, and Daphne, correct me, we have maybe around 86, 87 proposals submitted.
So we actually had a total of 88 proposals submitted.
88 proposals. So the conference is going to be really good with a lot of different insights. So please
Yeah.
register as early as possible. We will have like hotel information for those who are coming out of town, and then the schedule will be up in the next coming weeks, hopefully before April.
Yes. And like Dr. King already mentioned, we will have hotel information for you all that may not be included in the acceptance letter that you receive via email, but that information will be shared with you all as soon as it's finalized. I am the conference organizer this year, so if you happen to have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll put my email address in the chat for anyone who may have questions.
And one last thing about costs, the conference is $125 for regular attendees, and for presenters is $100. So you can't beat a 3-day conference for that type of money. So please, support us. And again, thank you for everyone who submitted a proposal.
Okay, so now I will be the last voice you hear before you hear Dr. Haynes. Dr. Haynes is a passionate educator dedicated to the success of all students, specifically Black and Brown students. She began A.T. Haynes Consulting, LLC, after graduating from St. John Fisher University, and saw a need to train educators in culturally responsive teaching. Dr. Haynes has more than 10 years experience in education as an assistant principal and teacher. She has implemented culturally responsive teaching practices and had several students score proficiency levels on the New York State ELA mathematics and science exams. She has established several culturally responsive initiatives in schools to promote student achievement and support their social emotional learning. In addition, Dr. Haynes has organized and led a team to decrease chronic and severe absenteeism. Dr. Haynes holds a Bachelor's of Science in Communication from the University of Buffalo, a Master's of Science in Education childhood grades 1 through 6, a certification of advanced study in educational leadership from Buffalo State University, and a doctorate in executive leadership specializing in culturally responsive teaching from St. John Fisher University. In Dr. Haynes' spare time, she enjoys spending time with her family and friends, reading, fitness, and cooking. Let's welcome Dr. Haynes, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it right over to you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and good morning to everyone. Thank you to Dr. King and your team for having me on to nerd out with y'all this morning. I am honored to be here and to share 6 beliefs on how to cultivate a culture responsive paradigm. So I'm going to jump right into it. So today I'm going to share with you all 6 beliefs on how to cultivate a culturally responsive paradigm. And it's important that teachers or educators are cultivating a culturally responsive paradigm because research has indicated that teachers' instructional behaviors are influenced by their mindset. And furthermore, teachers also need to have better interactions with Black and Brown students in the classroom. So, before I get started with cultivating a culturally responsive paradigm, I think it's important that you all have a strong understanding of what culturally responsive teaching is. And so I'm going to start off with talking about what culturally responsive teaching is, and then I'm going to move into cultivating a culturally responsive paradigm. So, what is culturally responsive teaching? Culturally responsive teaching is an unconventional pedagogy because it does challenge the traditional ways that Black and Brown students are educated in the classroom. However, culturally responsive teaching is something that you embody, okay? You have to become culturally responsive. It is a mindset or it is a paradigm. All right. The term was coined by Dr. Geneva Gay in 2000. And she gave us a formal definition on what culturally responsive teaching is. And I'm going to read it. Okay. She stated that culturally responsive teaching is using the cultural knowledge, prior experiences, frames of reference, and performance styles of ethnically diverse students to make learning encounters more relevant and effective for them. Now, in this definition, she gives us 4 assets that educators must know, understand, and use to make learning relevant and effective for ethnically diverse students. Okay. First, she talks about cultural knowledge. Well, their cultural knowledge is their ways of knowing and being from their culture. So this includes their communication styles, their definition of respect, their body language, their values and principles. Okay. She also talked about their prior experiences. So, good or bad, big or small, Black and Brown students have experiences outside of the classroom that teachers need to tap into to connect them to the learning. Okay. She also talks about their frames of reference. Well, their frames of reference is how they see the world. Okay. But not only how they see the world, but how do they view their classroom ecology? Okay. How do they view you as the teacher? How do they view their peers? How do they view the instruction, the curriculum? Okay. And then lastly, she talks about the performance styles. Well, the performance styles are their learning styles. Okay. And teachers should not just want to know, what their learning styles are, but they should want to know how Black and Brown students learn best. Okay. Are they kinesthetic learners who need movement to help them learn? Okay. Most of them are. Are they experiential learners who learn by doing? Okay. Are they auditory learners where they can hear the teacher say it once and they've got it? Okay. Or are they visual learners who need a model or an example and then they can recreate it to demonstrate mastery? So culturally responsive teaching requires that teachers or educators, get to know their students so that they can teach through them. And when you teach through them, you are teaching based on who they are and their lived experiences. So this is my culturally responsive teaching implementation pyramid. So if you don't have a pen and paper, I suggest you get one and write these beliefs down because this is what we're going to use to cultivate a culturally responsive paradigm. Okay, now there's 6 beliefs in total. There are 4 on the pyramid, and they are there because they are measurable. The 2 at the bottom are not. Okay. And teachers or educators can start anywhere on this pyramid to implement culturally responsive teaching. However, I suggest you start at the bottom and work your way to the top. Okay. You can also cultivate 2 beliefs at the same time. I don't recommend more than 2 because with culturally responsive teaching, you want to take your time with this work. Okay. And this CRT implementation pyramid was created based on my original research of 6 elementary teachers' experiences implementing culturally responsive teaching. And these beliefs are applicable for K to 12 educators. They can be used at the university level, and they're also lifelong beliefs. Okay. So the first belief is adapting to students' cultural needs. And this is important because there is a cultural mismatch between Caucasian teachers and Black and Brown students in the classroom. So, to be precise, in New York State, the teaching workforce is predominantly 80% Caucasian females. And 50% of the students enrolled in public schools are Black and Brown students. Furthermore, research has indicated that Caucasian teachers have little to no experience with Black and Brown people, let alone the Black and Brown students they are responsible for. Okay, so Caucasian teachers must acknowledge race because that is where difference begins. And then they must use that information to adapt to their students' cultural needs. So, what are their cultural needs, right? That's the big question. Well, Black and Brown students have instructional needs and they have environmental needs based on their culture. So, first, instructionally, Black and Brown students need representation in the curriculum. They need to see people who look like them, think like them, and behave like them so that they are inspired and motivated to engage in their learning. Next, they need rigor. And rigor is important because when Black and Brown students are taught from an oversimplified curriculum. They are not developing the brain cells to complete challenging tasks. So they need tasks that they can grapple with so that they are building the brain power to do hard things. And keep in mind, you are measuring these challenging tasks against students' readiness level, okay? You are not giving them grossly challenging tasks so that they can struggle. However, you are giving them tasks that they can grapple with, yet they can overcome while they're learning because their brain grows when they are challenged. Also, you need to adapt to their learning styles and their cultural orientations. Okay? Black and brown students come from communal cultures, okay? Which means that they are people oriented, okay? Also, Black and brown students are kinesthetic learners, okay? They need movement, okay, to help them learn. Also, they have high verve or they're high energy, all right? And then they also can handle increased levels of stimulation. But teachers need to use this information again to adapt to their students and teach through them so that they are setting them up for success in the classroom. Also, they have environmental needs. Black and brown students need a welcoming and warm environment because too often in schools, Black and brown students experience racism and they know it when it occurs, and it reinforces to them that school is not a safe place for them to be themselves. So they need a welcoming and warm environment that provides a sense of belonging for them. And then also they need representation, okay? I can't emphasize this enough. They need to see Black and brown people hanging on the walls in their classroom again to have that sense of belonging. And here are some examples of what adapting to students' cultural needs could look like in the classroom. And I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm only going to go through a few just to give you an idea of what it could look like. So first, you could factualize history. And you do that by telling them the truth about Black and brown people's histories in America and in the world. And the truth is, Black history doesn't start with slavery, okay? Black history begins in ancient Africa, okay? Because that's where Black people are from. Slavery is Black people at our lowest point, and you can't teach our history from our lowest point, okay? You also have to integrate the positive contributions that Black and brown people have made to our society, because again, the goal is to inspire, to motivate, and to ignite the curiosity inside of Black and brown students. Excuse me. You also want to use storytelling. Storytelling is a part of their cultural heritage, okay? And it's also a deeper way to connect with them. So you use storytelling, okay, to build that relationship with them. And then also, you can use cooperative learning, okay? Black and brown students are people oriented, again, because they come from communal cultures. So cooperative learning is an ideal learning strategy for them because they want to socialize. They're wired to socialize, okay, and to connect with others. The physical environment also, again, they need to see highly accomplished Black and Brown people hanging on the walls of their classroom so that they are motivated to to reach their fullest potential. Also, you want to use routines and rituals to create that sense of belonging for Black and Brown students, and also give them structure that they can depend on in the classroom. The second belief is building deep, positive relationships. And this is important because positive relationships provide a sense of safety for Black and Brown students. Now, let me unpack this for y'all. So, it's not uncommon for Black and Brown students to experience hostility and neglect in schools, okay? It's quite often that they experience this. And when they experience this, it causes them to go into distress. It causes distress, okay? When they are distressed, okay, they cannot learn. The brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And they're not thinking about learning, okay? Because they feel threatened in their environment and they feel unsafe, okay? So they have like a defense mechanism up now. So deep positive relationships keep the brain calm, and it keeps Black and Brown students at ease, because when the brain is calm, okay, it's because they're trusting their teacher, the adults that are in front of them, to not mistreat them or to not cause harm to them. Okay. And when they are calm and the brain is at ease, they are creative and they are ready to learn, and they can solve higher order thinking tasks. Okay. They can do it. So deep positive relationships are essential to learning for Black and Brown students. Now, here are some examples of what building deep positive relationships could look like. You build trust. Trust is the glue to the relationship. So you have to build trust with it. Next, be a warm demander. And I love this one because I was a warm demander as a teacher. I loved my students. I cared for them. I had their backs, but I also demanded that they worked hard for me and that they produced quality work. Okay. I also held them accountable for their actions in my classroom, but I loved on them at the same time. So they knew that I cared for them. Okay. Also, you can share your cultural background with your students. Okay. Teach them some of your ways of being and knowing from your culture. Okay. That's another way to connect with them. And then lastly, you have to invest in them to get a return in academic performance. And I'm not talking about investing money. I'm talking about you have to invest praise, encouragement, motivation, high fives, smiles, laughs, fist bumps. You have to invest all of those intangible things in them so that they feel that you are nurturing them and they feel cared for. And when Black and Brown students feel cared for, they want to reciprocate. And so they'll reciprocate by giving you strong academic performance in the classroom. So it's worth the investment. The third belief is empowering and affirming students. And this is important because Black and brown students have a strong, or I will say they have a longing to be accepted as their authentic selves at school. Okay. They want the teachers, the educators to see them for who they truly are and then affirm their cultural identities. They don't want to be judged or labeled based on stereotypes. Okay. They want you to use what they're showing you and then engage with them accordingly. Okay. And you have to keep in mind that Black and brown students are from marginalized communities. So society has already disenfranchised them. Okay. So the classroom must be a place where Black and brown students are empowered, they're affirmed, and they're uplifted so that they can reach their fullest potential. And again, here are some examples of what empowering and affirming students could look like in the classroom. Embrace students' authentic selves. I can't emphasize this enough. Allow them to be who they are and accept them as they are. Use what they're showing you to understand them. Also, provide autonomy. Okay, give them choices and the freedom to make decisions for themselves so that they're cultivating their independence and they're becoming who they want to be. And then lastly, oh, I want to say promote student voice in the classroom. Let me just go back there for a moment. Okay, you want to empower Black and brown students to share their perspectives and experiences in the classroom. And you also want to teach them how to advocate for social justice. Okay. And then now I'm going to skip down to promote a growth mindset. Okay. You want to empower them to believe in themselves. Okay. And the power of hard work and effort to accomplish their dreams. The fourth belief is positive mindsets for success. Excuse me. And this is the pinnacle of the culturally responsive teaching implementation pyramid. And when teachers or educators have this belief, they have fully embraced cultural diversity, and it's all about the win for Black and brown students. Okay. You're using culturally responsive teaching and you view your Black and brown students positively, as well as viewing their capabilities positively. And then you ensure their success in your classroom. Another major part of having a positive mindset for success is eliminating biases, deficit thinking, and negative stereotypes. Okay, and so I'm just going to unpack this a little bit for y'all. So when you eliminate your biases, you are able to identify that you have a bias and then you overcome it with the facts. Okay. And you're measuring, oh, let me say it like this. If you measure your bias, when you measure your bias against the facts, if it does not measure up, you must eliminate it. Okay. And I'm going to use a line that my grandma, she always says. She says, don't be stuck on stupid. Okay. If your bias doesn't measure up to the facts, let it go. All right. And then negative stereotypes. When you eliminate negative stereotypes, you build your cultural competence. That's how you eliminate negative stereotypes. You have to learn the facts of Black and brown people, okay? So that you can eliminate stereotypical thinking. And you can do that by reading books, by Black and brown people. You can watch documentaries. You can engage in meaningful conversations with Black and brown people, but you have to get the facts about Black and brown people so that you eliminate stereotypical thinking. And then lastly, you build a culture of success, okay? You're celebrating their big and small wins. You are encouraging them. You're praising them. They persevere through challenges. They take risks. They feel fully supported in your classroom. And also, you have empowered them to believe in winning, okay? And you help them to win. And these are some examples of what having a positive mindset for success could be, okay? Believing in Black and brown students is critical. It is like a key factor for implementing culturally responsive teaching, okay? Research has indicated that negative attitudes influences negative behaviors, okay? And positive attitudes influence positive behaviors. So your attitude in the classroom, okay, it's going to determine, okay, if your Black and brown students are going to excel in your class, okay? Also, you have to acknowledge and cultivate their assets. And I'll share just a quick story because as a teacher, I had this happen. A little boy came to me. I was a fourth grade teacher, and a boy came to me from third grade. He had scored a level 1 on the New York State math assessment. However, in my classroom, he was brilliant in math. And I noticed that. And I started pumping him up. Okay. And that school year, it was the first implementation of Common Core Learning Standard assessments. And I think all teachers that year were just afraid of those assessments. However, this student of mine, because I had pumped him up, he was the only student in the fourth grade that year that got a 3 on that exam. Okay. And keep in mind, he came to me from third grade at a level 1, and he scored a 3 in my class. So when you acknowledge Black and brown students' strengths and then you cultivate them further, okay, they will achieve. All right. And then next, you have to set high expectations for them. Again, your attitude is going to determine if your Black and brown students are successful in your classroom. Okay, you set the tone. If you believe that they can meet your expectations, they will. If you don't believe, they won't, because research has indicated when teachers project negative attitudes, disposition towards students, that students begin to approbate or behave in that manner. So again, your mindset, okay, your paradigm is critical to the success of Black and brown students in the classroom. The fifth belief is anticipating challenges while implementing culturally responsive teaching. And this is important because you have to keep in mind that culturally responsive teaching is an unconventional pedagogy. And there are going to be some challenges along this journey, okay? Culturally responsive teaching requires a strong understanding of who you are and what you stand for, your values, your beliefs, your dispositions toward ethnically diverse people. And you have to be willing to reflect on the good, the bad, and the ugly and make adjustments so that you are impacting achievement for Black and brown students. Okay. Right now, there is strong resistance, okay? And there will be resistance, okay? We are in the middle of an anti-DEI, anti-Black, anti-culturally responsive era, okay? And it is important as teachers, educators, that you stand strong and you overcome this resistance and you implement culturally responsive teaching, because it is going to impact the achievement of Black and Brown students. Okay. The curriculum is not culturally responsive. Okay. That is something that you must know. Okay. And you have to overcome that. Okay. You have to think outside of the box, and you have to find supplemental materials to support your culturally responsive work in the classroom. And then lastly, you may not have all the knowledge on Black and Brown people, and that's okay, okay? But if you don't know something, you need to seek the answer. And especially, if it's during instruction, you need to get back to your students with an answer, okay? Because you're showing them that they care and that you value, okay, what you're teaching them. Also, okay, you're building the relationship with them. So this is another way to keep that ongoing relationship building happening, okay? And these are some examples of what anticipating challenges while implementing culturally responsive teaching could look like, okay? You may have limited resources on culturally responsive materials, and this challenge should cause you to become more resourceful, okay? You're going to have to seek out other resources such as Black-owned businesses, local community organizations, and other culturally responsive educators, maybe outside your school district, okay, to help you do this work. Also, the pacing guide. You may have challenges with keeping up with your pacing guide because your culture responsive lessons may take a little longer because they're more engaging, okay? So if you need to rearrange some lessons on that pacing guide, then do that, okay? If you need to talk to your administrators about not being able to keep up with your pacing guide, do that. But be willing to take those risks because you know that that challenge is there. Also, your depth of integration may not be sufficient to give students a solid understanding of ethnically diverse people. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're not just implementing culturally responsive teaching, during, Black History Month or, once or twice throughout the year. However, you are integrating culture responsive teaching throughout the entire school year, okay? And then also, there may be a lack of culture responsive teaching professional learning within your school district, okay? So you are going to have to seek out culture responsive teaching professional learning, okay, as you're doing today, so that you can continue to sharpen your lens in culturally responsive teaching. And then the last belief is utilizing advantageous support beyond the classroom. And this is important because you cannot do this work alone, okay? You need help, okay? And Black and Brown families, they want to be involved in their child's success at school, okay? So you need to tap into them so that they can support you and the student, okay, as you're implementing culturally responsive teaching in the classroom. Also, you need to seek out and attend culturally responsive professional learning to sharpen your skills, okay? You need to stay abreast with strategies, tools to help you, okay, continuously impact the achievement of Black and Brown students. And then lastly, utilize your colleagues and your school administrators for support. These folks, they have knowledge, they have wisdom, they have insight, they have strategies that can help you deepen this work. So lean on them, okay? And then here are some examples of what utilizing advantageous support beyond the classroom could look like, okay? Make home visits to get to know the families, okay? Keep them involved, build relationships with them, stay connected with them, okay? Partner with local organizations that support culturally responsive teaching. Have guest speakers come in. Take your students on culturally responsive field trips. Join book studies, okay? Just keep building your culturally responsive lens. Also, this is a huge one that I love. Spend time in your students' communities. Hey, find out where they spend their time, okay? Pay attention to the resources that are available to them or lack thereof. And then also pay attention to the interactions and the communications of people in their community. Pay attention to how adults communicate and interact with the young people in the community. And then also learn from culturally responsive teaching experts, okay? They have the knowledge and the wisdom to equip you with skills to help you be impactful with Black and Brown students. So absorb, all the knowledge you can from them to sharpen your lens with implementing culturally responsive teaching. Are there any questions? Okay, if not, connect with me, use the QR code to sign up for my monthly newsletter for tips and tricks on culturally responsive teaching. And thank you.
All right, thank you, thank you. Can you stop sharing and then we'll go into gallery mode. I'm sure there's some questions here.
Okay.
Um, so let's take another chance to give Dr. Hayes a
Thank
round of
you.
applause for joining us here. All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Or even from the chat?
I don't see any questions in the chat.
I have a question. I don't know if it's gonna come out how I want it to come out, so bear with me.
Okay.
But when you were sharing about like bringing in the families and like incorporating that into the culturally responsive, I guess my question is how how do you do that when sometimes the families don't look like the students and some of the families are dependent on us as the school to give their child like that's the only place they kind of get some of that culturally responsive background, I guess.
So you have to build the relationship. Like if they don't look like, if the families don't, and I'm trying to understand this correctly, like you said, the families may not look like you. Is that what you're saying?
They don't look like the child.
They don't look like the child.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they don't look like the child, you have to do your research to learn about the culture. Okay. Ask questions, ask them questions, find out about their culture and learn about them so that you're able to connect with them. Okay. And then understanding their culture is going to help you to connect with them, you know, even though they don't look like the child. I wouldn't worry too much about them not looking like the child, but I would build the cultural competence to understand their culture, understand their values, understand, you know, what's important to them, understand their position on education, but get to know the culture so that you're able to connect with them and you know, be that positive X factor when they come to the schools or when you're interacting with them. You want to make sure that you're not giving them a negative experience, but it's a positive experience so that they want to stay connected to you and they want to build the relationship with you. I hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see one in the chat. Oh, I see two. Okay, from Kim. Kim is, can your research also help nonprofits who work with Black and Brown students? Yeah, Kim. So if they're working with Black and Brown students, you know, in educational, you know, setting, yes, you know, it definitely can. My culture responsive framework is, you know, applicable to all educators, okay? And definitely nonprofits, if, you know, they're instructing them, yes, definitely, okay, it can. Also, Oren Jones, how can we circumvent the DEI executive order for meeting higher education in K-12 around imagery? Yeah, that's a tough one. I read today that a teacher was made to remove a sign on her classroom wall that says everyone is welcome here. Yeah, I saw that story on the news the other day. That's a tough one, okay? But you have to stand strong in this anti-DEI, anti-Black, anti-culture responsive teaching movement right now. You really want to, I know that you're bound with compliance in the school and you have to do what your administrators are telling you to do, but I mean, you don't have to just, sit down and take it. And keep in mind, New York State, um, the state has developed their culture responsive teaching framework, and they are moving forward with culturally responsive teaching and DEI initiatives. It may not be called DEI, just like the state's DEI conference that's happening this month, was the name of it was changed to Uplifting Students. So there's in New York State, they're still moving forward with DEI initiatives. Okay, so use that as leverage in your school building. If there's resistance and your school administrators are pushing back on you, okay, you have the state ed department, okay, that's supporting DEI work. Okay, so use that as leverage.
We have a hand raised.
Okay, all right, go ahead, David.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Thank you for the talk. It was really great. You kind of, I think you kind of answered with the last bit, because I think you partially answered it, but what I was thinking was along those lines, where I'm just thinking of particularly red areas in New York State. Like I live in Chautauqua County, which can have some pretty red patches. So I'm just thinking of, say, maybe a white educator who is really committed, to making sure that they have a culturally appropriate teaching, but might be facing pushback in maybe more conservative areas where they're on board with all of this, anti-DEI agenda that the current administration has. It sounds like kind of your recommendation of resistance for the resistance to cultural
Yeah.
responsiveness is kind of
Yeah.
banking on already the state's larger commitment. Is that kind of
Yes.
like what you would recommend those educators that might be getting a bit more pushback?
Yeah, you have to stand strong in this work. I mean, because the president has, signed these executive orders, I'm not going to, shut my consulting business down and, not move forward with impacting achievement for Black and Brown students, right? We have to stand in this and we have to continue to work, okay, to improve the success of Black and Brown students. And again, like I said, New York State Ed Department, okay, they're fully supporting DEI work. Okay. I mean, that's your leverage right there, So, stand strong and keep pushing it forward. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a few more minutes for any questions. If anyone has anything or any comments, you can put it in chat or you can raise your hand. All right. Okay. All right. Dr. Hayes, can you tell us a little bit more about your business and things that you do and services that you provide and
Okay.
as we close?
So I have a consulting business in which I provide culturally responsive teaching, professional learning for educators. I go into schools and I will be starting back hosting virtual culturally responsive teaching sessions on Saturdays next month. So you can visit my website, the bookings page, to see the culturally responsive courses that I will be facilitating. Also, I go into schools and I provide a culturally responsive physical assessment of the environment to ensure that, Black and Brown students are represented within that. And it's based on the school's student population of Black and Brown students. Okay. I also have a teacher mentoring service in which I mentor a teacher and I target specific skills that a teacher would like to focus on. And I create an action plan with them. I meet with them once a month and, I'm accessible via email. I go in and visit the school, the classroom exactly, a couple times a month so that they're getting the support that they need. And it's for veteran teachers and, new teachers. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it. Mhm.
All right. So I'll let Daphne close it out, but just a few reminders. Conference, Teaching Black History Conference this summer, please register. $125 for regular attendees, $100 for presenters. Daphne and her team will send out acceptance letters real soon with all the information that you'll need for that. Number two, we will pay close attention to your email. We'll be sending out more information about our next book club that will start April 12th. We have our Research and Race series. So for those who are interested in the research side of our center and research and race, we have that April 29th. I think everything is in the chat here for you to sign up for. Our next nerd series, we're taking April off in terms of nerds and coming back on May to hear Donovan James and her research on children's picture books. So that should be really informative. I'm really excited about what she's learning so far, and where we'll end up around two months from now. What else? What else? What else? What else? Micro credential. If you're interested in getting a certificate in teaching Black history, Abigail and Dee will hold a informational session next Thursday, March 20th, at 7 p.m. I know we sent out some information on there, and also everything's on our site. So we're very busy over here, y'all. So please keep up. Check your emails. For that. So I'll be quiet and I'll let Daphne.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Haynes, again. You all have a beautiful rest of your day and weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again in May. Let us know if you need anything. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.